Well, we're getting started a little bit late, but oh well. What I'm reading are excerpts from my book called DARLA, which is an acronym for Damned Affliction, Ruined Legs, and ... And it was originally called Faces of DARLA because chronic pain and disease has a lot of different faces, and it affects very many different parts of our lives. And so I'm just going to read you quick what the chapters are, and then I'll read a few parts. Each section, with the exception of the first chapter, are introduced by a short vignette of maybe 4 or 5 pages at most. And then there's the chapter title, and then there's a poem, and then there's the main part of the chapter. And that's just kind of how the book is set up. So anyway, chapter 1 is called Shadows of History, which is a cursory description of the pain in my life. Then there's cast of characters, people who have had a major influence in my life. Battle of the Picket Fence. Faces of DARLA is chapter 2, the kinds of pain and how I've expressed them. Battle of Final Toast. Chapter 3, Seeking Alms and Receiving Balms, Looking for Help and Earning It. Battle of the Nuts, which you'll hear that one. That's for chapter 4, If the Gown is Open in the Back, Cover Your Ass, about becoming part of the medical team. Battle for the Will to Fight introduces chapter 5, Even Jerry's Kids Get the Flu. Chronic pain and dealing with other health and life issues. Then there's Battle of the Morning Echoes, which introduces Please Doc More Drool About Substance Abuse. Battle of the Ant Farm introduces chapter 7, Helping Out, Caregiving, and Giving Back. Battle of Some Grand Play introduces chapter 8, and how to get out of it. Times to not help. And because this book is written for both the chronic pain patient as well as their friends, family, and caregivers. Then there's Battle of the Scooter Choo Choo, introducing chapter 9, Toys of Space Oddity, Using Tools for Your Disability. Battle of the Lost Boys. Chapter 10, which is called Bondage and Discipline, Body for One, We Are Not Our Bodies. Battle of the Midnight Caller is chapter 11, Falling Down Again, and the Chi of the Egyptian Cubit. Let me explain what the Egyptian cubit is. It's an actual measurement. Are you familiar with it? Anybody? It's how they measured in Egypt a cubit, from the tip of their elbow to the tip of their longest finger. So read between the lines. That's an Egyptian cubit. That's oftentimes what's got me out of bed, such as today. And that's about We Are Not Our Bodies. Relapse and the Caned Crusader. There's Battle of the Hand Dance, which leads into the Kama Sutra for the gymnastically challenged, Sex and Sensuality. And then Battle of Remembrances, which leads us into the final chapter, Cherish Your Limitations, Finding Gifts in Life with Pain and Disease. So onward. This is called Shadows of History. Oh, I stand naked before you, you hold no smirk, You gaze intently as you stand naked too. So here I am, naked before you, and God is tough to do. When my nephew JJ asked me how I was able to live with my constant pain and chronic disease, what it was like to live with them, I gave him a short answer. Only afterwards did I realize that before I could give him an accurate answer, I needed to first describe what the pain and disease was like. One cannot give proper answers without first knowing the proper order of the questions. So, what is my chronic pain and disease like? The colors can be brooding, dark, algae greens and blues running together in a swirling eddy. That's my pain, a symptom from my brand of one of the 45 different kinds of muscular dystrophy. Pretty, isn't it? Actually, it can be if I catch it at just the right time, depth, and mindset before the colors morph into some hideous Medusa named DARLA, my acronym for damned affliction, ruined legs, and DARLA, by the way, is my sometimes bitch, sometimes lover of ill repute, and at times my muse. This dark algae green and blue pigment is every bit a part of my being as my nerve endings, or the endings of my nerves, quite literally. Sometimes the pain is a simple Syrian razor slicing its ways up my toes, feet, shins, and calves. It's always fun to see just how far my legs will jerk, as though to release themselves from the pain centers in my brain. And it's especially fun when I'm walking along and the call goes out to let the dancing legs begin. Just tip me over and pour me out. I'm not a teapot, though, so sometimes it's tears and sometimes it's laughter that spills. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut who said that we either laugh or we cry because something is true. I can promise you, pain is true. A dark corner of me wanted to write, "The only thing that's true is pain, sunshine." I couldn't do it, though, as that would deny the truth of its opposite. Then there are the snakes by the hundreds biting me, or some breed of scientifically altered insect strain stinging, or some portable pan of hot oil that simply wants to deep fry my legs. Then there are the days these legs of mine feel like limp wash rags being twisted and wrung out as if to push any and all moisture from the fibers. There's the lugging of a seeming side of beef from the bed in some mornings to start the day. Nothing says, "Welcome to a brand new day," than a hernia and a thud. How things so skinny can feel so heavy is beyond me, but so they do. One of my brothers claims I have pain Tourette's. That has to be true, as I've realized that I can swear in perfectly cogent and grammatically correct complex sentences. Practice, practice, practice. Darla has been a very good French teacher who often got me in Dutch with my mom when she heard me use such colorful English language. The algae greens and blues do tint the tongue as well. Be assured, I'll try to be gentle with the language. Sorta. On rare occasions, with the pain so intense that I am near crazed and angry, there's the sudden realization that I am aroused. It's not enjoying the pain per se. It's like the machine that is my brain clicks a lever and says suddenly, "I'm saving your ass and sanity by doing this, you sick bastard." Then blood surges to my nether regions with such urgency that a different kind of release is called for. During that act of release, hormones and chemicals called endorphins, hundreds of times more powerful than morphine, race through me. My mind goes elsewhere from the pain, and with the finality of the distraction, exhaustion sets in, and maybe I could sleep, if not just relax for a time. Dance to the masochism tango, sunshine. Sometimes I'm a nudist, not by upbringing but through sheer need to relieve the pressure on my skin. That hand-shaking stripping off of shoes, leg braces, socks, and pants takes hold so hard, followed by the gotta-piss-now urgency of stripping off my jacket and shirt, as standing about naked from the waist down just looks silly. If that feeling persists, I'm not always disinclined to punch my legs, bed, pillow, wall, or a door. That's something that chronic disease and pain will do many times anyway. Strip you naked, I mean. Sometimes it will strip you naked and make you look silly. It's not the best position to be in usually unless you and or the people around you all agree to have a particular humor. There's the physical discomfort and then the mental angst that seems to come on. The angst, discomfort can seep through small cracks in the daily living for some, or others, mere survival. I do think, though, through no small amount of study on my part, there can still be a sense of living, capital L kind of living, of fully being alive. That's sometimes all I can hang on to, the idea that pain, if nothing else, lets me know that I am fully there in the moment. The want, that driving desire to live, not just in spite of chronic disease and pain, but with chronic disease and pain, is a form of grace. I am of the opinion that grace is a given instinct to survive, as is the drive to be fully alive. I've had so many people accuse me of being brave or courageous, and I fucking hate those terms. But the more basic truth is that I'm just trying to stay alive. I mean alive in the sense of not mere survival, but the ability to be more than my disability and my pain. The ability to live fully in the moment. This moment, now this moment, now this one. To be able to feel all else other than those related to my muscular dystrophy or my other problems. I have found it so easy to allow my pain to dictate if I will or won't attend a play my brother Daryl is in. Being unable to walk with little to no pain is often a nice excuse to avoid some dinner or lunch that I've been invited to when I'm thoroughly apathetic about the gathering. Sometimes the ordeal is simply getting dressed, which includes putting on my leg braces, overwhelms the enticement of cafe chit-chat and a free meal. Because pain can seem all-encompassing, it's very easy to equate myself with my disease and with my pain. Then I have to remember that everyone alive has some disability or some kind of pain, physical or otherwise. Some of us are bedded down with multiple challenges. I have a grocery list of physical problems in a dresser drawer of pharmaceutical magic. I have a particularly tasty breakfast of about a dozen pills and vitamins every morning, the breakfast of champions. These pills help regulate spasms and nerves, depression, iron deficiency, severe heartburn, and or they aid in pain relief. It's such a good meal that I have to repeat it as an early lunch and then as a smaller snack near bedtime. Good thing I have a decent breakfast. It is the most important meal of the day, after all. This is a poem that introduces seeking alms and receiving balms, which has to do with dealing with the different services there are, like Medicaid, Medicare, SSI, SSA, and all the rigmarole that goes with it. It's called "And They Me Around." You might understand what is. And they me around, and they me around, and I keep asking, please, more gruel? And they keep me around, and they add a lubricant so they can me around, and they add a lubricant so it goes in easier, goes in deeper, and they me around, and the lubricant isn't Vaseline, it's Vicks, and they me around, and does it burn my This is an all the anecdotal stories in here are true, by the way. And so this is the anecdotal story that leads into if the gown is open in the back, cover your ass. And this one's called Battle of the Nuts. It was yet another nerve conduction test. I'd already had 3 of them in the previous 18 months or so. Maybe it was my disease, but those damn necessary tests pretty much hurt like the Dickens. And I've read Charles Dickens, by the way, and he was indeed painful to read in much the same way that Ray Bradbury isn't. I was wired up and the technician was doing his thing, attaching electrodes and such. He questioned my nerves, prodding the answers from them like an ancient Spanish monk with small wooden and electric prods that he called needles. Christian, monk my ass. This monk in the lab coat wasn't much older than I, and I was 20 at the time. Maybe he was a novitiate. Whatever this Inquisition tech was, he'd left the exam room door ajar. About halfway through the procedure, another seeming novitiate stopped by. He leaned himself against the door jamb and started talking to my medical monk about an apparently important basketball game. This pretty much pissed me off. For one thing, I might watch 1 or 2 games a year if I'm bored, but if I'm not a fan of the game. Because I'm 6'4" and lanky, people upon our first meeting think I've played or do play hoops. I don't, but I did when I was younger. Basically, my best talent was passing the ball. After a few initial games, I was barely expected to dribble the ball and walk at the same time, as I wasn't all that coordinated. The main reason I was ticked, though, was that my novice Sade. Let me try that again. The main reason I was ticked, though, was that my novice de Sade wasn't paying attention to what he was supposed to be doing. Pain from the test, when the technician was paying attention, I could accept. In a kinky way, even appreciate. But a distracted tech causing pain was an altogether different beast. As my tormentor in his doorway pal chatted, he cranked a dial way too high, joking me with way too much electricity. I yelped and unintentionally kicked. Almost by instinct for survival, I jabbed and grabbed my white-jacketed jerk by the jewels. I squeezed them sufficiently tight to merit his sudden attention. It was his turn to yelp. With my other hand, I pointed at the visitor and said, "You, out!" Then looking at my now tormented captive, I said, "You, pay attention. I'm holding on until he leaves and you start doing your job right. That jolt fucking hurt." Without comment, but a shocked, slight grin, our unsolicited visitor left, and the Grand Inquisitor's berries in my fist demanded that he return to prodding my nerves for answers, but in a once again much saner way. I lay there being lightly electrocuted, nesting his eggs in the basket of my hand. He didn't try to pull away, though he looked my way to see a set of determination in my scowl and clenched teeth. I was hoping he wasn't enjoying it. After a few minutes, I gave a reminding, not quite painful squeeze and released my hostage. I love the irony of shocking him in return. Taking my lead, he also didn't speak during the rest of the procedure, but to say, "We're done." As I left, I was tempted to say, "See you next time," but I didn't. I must say I felt a little awkward and shocked at myself at what I had done. I couldn't help but be pleased with myself either. After all, it's not a bad thing if a procedure needs to be repeated, and that the technician be personally and properly trained. I trained him, but I never saw that technician again. This next piece I wrote for the book, and we're hoping that with the book we can do a CD of the poems that are in the book, set them to music. And so I'm working with Tony Hubert, who lives down where I grew up. We went to high school together, and he did one of his CDs anyway. It's called State of Things Without and Around Us, and he found a vocalist, Emily Bioli, who read this poem that I'd written called Falling In, Down, Out, and I really loved it. So I decided to throw this into the reading and then go on from there.
Having fallen, I faced the sky and prayed to the moon. She remained bright, cold, indifferent, her face not changing. I prayed to the sun, he reflected perdition of hell, then hid behind the horizon, unable to look me in the face. I prayed to Jesus, he was busy being dead. I prayed to Mother Mary, she was busy bleeding. I prayed to God, he was grieving for his son. I prayed to Allah, he was embarrassed. I prayed to Buddha, he was too fat with contemplation. I prayed to the Hindi kings and queens, they were deaf with the prayers of millions. I prayed to the Olympians, they were out of vogue. I prayed to a kid running down the alley. He stopped, stooped, and let me hold his hand.
I was Tony Huber doing the music to that poem on his The State of Things Without and Around Us, and it's Heavy Confetti is the name that he goes by. And if you like that, you can find his stuff at www.heavyconfetti.com.
Who was the lady's voice, did you say?
Emily Bioli. She has a very, her voice on this CD is just amazing. For singing, it's just beautiful. I just love the way she read that piece. So this is for the chapter called Helping Out, ... After I tore one of my Achilles tendons, had it lengthened and reconnected, I ended up in the hospital for several days. Again. I was in college at the time, and it was right around Christmas. I remember the nearness of Christmas, as one of my physical therapists, Juanita, brought in an acoustic guitar. She told me it might help me pass the time. I told her I'd get it back to her when I got out, and she said, "Merry Christmas, it's yours. A 6-string and a hard case. My first." Nice. My writing and literature professor had stopped by my room as well, though I was asleep at the time, and he brought me Sade's Diamond Life cassette. I got laid to that tape so many times. It was an oral aphrodisiac, apparently. I still have certain Pavlovian responses to it, even after all these years later. Cheers to you, Roy. It turned out to be a very musical hospital stay. I'd listen to my Walkman, a term that makes me feel old, or strum and I'd sing. I tried to play and sing softly, but as the room and the corridors were pretty sparse and not carpeted, my crooning and chords seemed to carry themselves down the hallway and then sneak into other patients' rooms. Nobody seemingly complained. I had long, and I do mean long, hair and a beard going. There was a woman in her 70s in the hospital at the same time. She also had long, curly red hair, and she had cancer. I'm so crappy with names, but for a long time I remembered hers. Unfortunately, over these many years, it's faded to blank, but I think it was Rebecca. Every once in a while, as I strummed and sang, she'd quietly walk into my room and sit in the chair at the foot of my bed listening. Sometimes she'd smile, but she always seemed to be listening intensely. At some points, sometimes just a few minutes later, she'd stand, smile, and silently slip out the door with her walker. The day before I was to be released, a nurse came in and asked if I'd go sing to one of the patients. It turned out to be the aging flower. He had cancer. Rebecca had rung the nurse and sent for me. The nurse wheeled me into her room. I just sang a couple of songs, Jordan Shore, which I'd written about my mother's dad who had died, followed by the a cappella song, Take My Mother Home, that I'd learned as a kid listening to Harry Belafonte. She'd closed her eyes as I sang to her. Tears swam their way down her sallow cheeks. When she seemed to have fallen asleep, I wheeled myself back to my room. Later, early in the afternoon, my carrot-top friend with the wild tresses came quietly into my room once again. She stood within the confines of her walker at the side of my bed. "You look and sound like Jesus," she said in a shaky voice. I didn't know what to say. Usually in that case, I'd make some smart-ass comment, but that time I remained silent. "My son will be here soon to take me home," she said. "I'd better die at home with my family there than in this place." I just nodded. "I'm a little afraid, but I love your voice and songs. I was just wondering if—" She paused and swallowed. "I was just wondering if you'd bless me. You just look and sound like Jesus." Smart-ass thoughts actually escaped me. In hindsight, there were so many I could have made. But when a woman is going home to die and wishes of one a blessing, it's hard not to take it seriously. It did stun me, though. I wasn't Jesus. I'm still not. I don't even want to be, especially being an agnostic. I couldn't believe in myself. I hesitated, and then I placed my right hand on top of her head. She closed her eyes. "Bless you, Rebecca. Travel well." As soon as I said it, I squirmed at the words, but they were already loosed upon her. They sounded stupid to me, but I couldn't very well take them back. "Bless you," I repeated. I took her thin, wrinkled hand and kissed it. "Thank you," she said softly. "Goodbye, Dwight." She left the room, and a sudden chill ran through me. It was an odd but radiant chill. It tingled from the top of my head down the nape and neck, spreading down my spine and across my shoulder blades, radiating around my hips and belly. It felt like a sacred moment with this near stranger who was soon to die and wanted some kind of reassurance, a blessing even. Even these more than 20 years later, even though her name has faded, that moment is still with me. Even now it is hard to write or read about. It was a solemn and joyous moment. Like I said, it felt intimate, sacred. Even if only briefly, there are times when two near strangers can share a moment that change them somehow. There are often quiet moments that ring loudly in our memories. I hope that blessing helped her. I never saw her again to ask. May you have traveled well, Rebecca. Thank you for that moment. This is this is a short story before Toys, A Space Oddity. It's called Battle of the Scooter Choo Choo. And I know you've all seen me riding around in my scooter. One recent afternoon, on the behest of my brother, Daryl, I used a scooter cart at a store for only the second time in my life. Now, I'm 6'4", standing upright, so it was suddenly very strange to be 4 foot tall. I know I had once been four tall, but that was a hell of a long time ago, and I'd grown upward into that, not suddenly downward. So it was strange to once again have top shelves seem so daunting to reach. I didn't run into anything and didn't run into anybody. People got out of the way a bit quicker, though some looked at me a little longer than they might have when I was just walking with my cane. As the checker scanned my groceries, I entered my club number and debit card info. When she was done, she said, "Will that be cash or—" "Oh, you already did your debit card. You're a step ahead of me." I looked at her, then at the scooter cart, and back at her. "A step ahead of you? You say that when I'm in a scooter? Is that a crack?" "No." A light she dawns beat. "No, "Oh, God, no!" She laid a hand on one of my arms. I grinned most wickedly and proud. "Just messing with you and teasing." Daryl and I were both grinning and laughing. She gave us both a quick look, and we looked at each other. Another dawning of realization beat. "Oh," she said, handing me the receipt. We laughed about it almost all the way back to my apartment. 'Twas much fun, though I think I dislocated the scapula patting myself on the back in evil glee. After 33 years of fighting to not use the wheelchair on a semi-permanent basis, I found I had to make one of the toughest decisions of my life. I called the local chapter of Muscular Dystrophy Association and with tears in my eyes asked for an electric scooter from the loan closet. With the disease active in my legs and arms, it was too hard to walk with a cane or walker, and I wasn't able to push myself in the wheelchair. As it happened, someone had just donated one, though I had to wait for it to be checked out and inventoried. The scooter was a little short for me, but it worked for my needs, especially in getting down to the transit depot and other longer distances, such as the corner market. I was torn in two when the scooter showed up. I was so happy to have it, and so angry and saddened that I had to use it. Felt like a battle lost. Because of that anger and grief, I felt very self-conscious when I rode in it. There were people who were able to walk by telling me they wished they could get one. I usually told them, "I'd gladly switch places with you, you moron." That comment usually ended the conversation right there, and at times pissed them off. The scooter felt so foreign to me. I didn't know whether it would be a permanent need or a temporary set of wheels to get around on, so I wasn't able to make it fully mine. It didn't fit with the image I had of myself. One can be grateful and at the same time rueful of such help. I took the scooter out for a run to the store one morning. The seat needed padding, as a bony butt on hard plastic seat makes of every bump a new potential for bruising. The scooter rode well, though. I found that while riding the cement sidewalks at full speed, about 4 whole miles per hour, each crack between the cement slabs felt like I was riding an old passenger train. It had that familiar rhythm to it also. I was smoking a cig as I rolled along, and with each exhale, the smoke billowed out behind me like the old coal-fired rail engines of old. Between the smoke and the rail rhythms, I found myself shouting, not too loud, of course, as I was passing the mental health building and wasn't finding myself in need of some imposed service from them. I was shouting, "Choo, choo, choo, choo." I was the one-car train for short 3-block jaunt. I like it when I can find a way to make the tools I need to get around and into toys. It makes me feel less handicapped and more like a kid just out having fun. It was then that I thought, the scooter may grow on me when I need to use it. This is the poem that opens for the Kama Sutra for the gymnastically challenged. It's called Suckling. Once I touched your flower, returned the nectar to my lips. In memory of that moment, I taste my fingers and surge. This is the last piece, and it's excerpt from the last chapter called Cherish Your Limitations. And I entitled the excerpt With Open Hand. Scars do not just mean injury. They indicate healing is or has taken place. Everybody has scars. It's just that some are more visible than others. They can be scars on the face of a gun-toting maniac. There can be scars on the belly or the back. They can be scars of the spirit, which are universal. Chronic pain and disease will leave their scars as well. There are those who bear the marks of healing angrily, lashing out for the disappointments and the unfairness of it all. Some will bear them with quiet solace in knowing that belly buttons are scars birthed just through being alive, and that the opposite is less desirable, that there be no life at all. Some will bear them with pride as a symbol of their survival through some battle or another. There are scars too that some of us have worked so very hard to close. Sometimes in order to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, it can take some damn hard work at times, and seemingly disgusting work too. Healing can be tough, painful, nerve-ifying, slow, tedious work. I also discovered that by massaging wounds and closed scars, that scarring will be lessened. Showing love and care for our scars will aid in their healing and in their observable effect. My friend Tony told me I was fortunate to have so much time to just take care of myself. I don't have a family, I live alone, and I don't have a job. She's right about that. I am fortunate in that regard. Right now, my job is to close some cavernous wounds, emotional, physical, and mental. Writing this book is part of that process. On the other hand, there are joys I am missing out on by not having those things. Besides, more to the point, it's hard making scars from wounds with so many other things going on in our lives, with family and work. Healing wounds. Now there's a task. Some scars we earn, others can be from the fiat of the giggling gods, other people a genetic cesspool, or even pure chance. Nothing apart from death and the fact that we are alive is certain. Our decisions offer up new chances, thus new choices, new traps, and new gifts. So it is with scars, chronic pain, and chronic disease. These things offer us choices, possible gifts, depending on how we wish to view them. A while back, between squalls of rain, I took my scooter down to the bus station to Hoquiam to work on a poetry reading. At the last stop sign before disembarking in Hoquiam, another squall hit. We got to the station. In the block and a half to Tully's, I had become waterlogged. The coat over the electronic lines of the scooter was soaked. When I caught the bus home, I had the same bus driver, and he laughed, asking if I was dry yet from my scooter trip from the bus to Tully's. I told him I was still wet from it. Suddenly, another passenger who had his bike aboard came up to me. He was a complete stranger. He handed me a large poncho and said, "Here, this has kept me dry. Now it's your turn." I damn near cried as I thanked him. It had been much better to get around in now. Both I and the scooter that's not supposed to get wet will not get wet, as the poncho fits over the whole shebang. But the poncho wasn't the only gift. The real gift was in the reaffirmation that there truly are people of giving and concern to nature. Thank you, Ron, whoever and wherever you are. If a person clutches so tightly to the grief that is theirs, they have no open hand to receive any offering of a gift. Likewise, if we touch someone with a fist, it's generally a punch. If we touch with an open hand, it's usually either a slap or loving caress. As with every gift, it is only an offering until we take hold of it and own it of our own choosing. Then it becomes a gift. A gift is also a challenge in that it can fall away, rust, or break unless we make it our own and take care of it. I joke that Darla gifts me with pain and continued weakness in my arms and legs, but the joke is only half sarcastic, depending on how I want to look at it. I could say that Darla took away my ability to run and makes it difficult to walk and has caused me near constant pain, and all of that would be true. I could focus on just those facts and be miserable. I could also focus on the facts that without Darla, the people I've met and loved, the events that have occurred since then, helped to change me, and the time I can focus on my writing and such would be so very much different. Whatever man I am is because of the chances I've had and the choices I've made. A lot of my choices were wrong. That is, other people were hurt by them, or I was, or both. Many of the choices I made came to be choices that I benefited from, and at times so did others. That common thread between the wrong choices and the right ones were that I made them amidst the choices and chances available to me. Many has been the time when the decisions I made offered up blessings. The only blessings I've had no say in is which family I was born into. I so try to remember the blessings given to me. My mom's nickname, Dolly, means gift from God. She truly was a full-fledged gift. I'm not sure how well I would have survived the muscular dystrophy had it not been for her example. I owe much to my mom's guidance and love. On my desk sits a white frame. Inside the borders are the words written by Tony that have been a major guide in my life for many years when I haven't neglected them. It says, "Cherish your limitations, for they give you your heights." Yes, oh yeah. I have taken to adding the stipulation, however, cherish your limitations, for they may give you your heights, as it is a choice to do so. To hold out my hand, palm up, and receive everything my Darla can offer me, the agony and the angst, the humdrum and horrors, the laughter, love, and life. Open-handed means I don't cling to the disease. I don't cling to the past as much as I used to, and I am able to receive and to give some gifts back in this life. To hold on loosely is hard to do. A time may come to let go tightly. I find it interesting how we can give a gift in the present from the past for future use. Actually, aren't all gifts based on such a thing? To give a gift doesn't mean we must give something away. Many times it means we share. We can share a caress as we can feel it. We can share experiences. We can share information. To give doesn't necessarily mean we give something away. But if we tight fist something, clinch or clutch something, we can't let it go. The open hand is the only way to do that. The hand must be open. This is true for caretakers, for families and friends, and for those with chronic conditions alike. There are many times I have been and will be angry, perhaps disconsolate for a while, because there are things that I am unable to do, unable to undo, or have a struggle doing in the first place. But if I acknowledge it, express it somehow, and work to fix the situation, I am once again able to fully embrace my life with less regret and sorrow. There are consequences with both the clenched fist and that open hand. As with my curly, red-haired gal who asked for a blessing, the consequence was the sense of humility and a sense of losing her. What people say about opening oneself up to love is true of any gift that one might offer or receive. The gift of life has its definite consequences, doesn't it? Here's the cool part about the thing I just called the gift of life. Even with my genetic cesspools that have birthed DARLA, I am a survivor, one of Darwin's champions. Because we have been given this gift of living, we can be more than mere survivors. I've been asked how I can get through the trouble and pain my genetic code has wrought. I usually laugh and give up the Egyptian Cuban. It has gradually come to my attention in the process of writing this small writ that my usual answer is not the full truth of it, though. Yes, I continue to hope and flip the finger, but there is another element that is more compelling. I not only survive, but live, capital L, live, because of the open hand. I live to see what gift is next offered, or to find what gift I might present someone. I live to see what gift, blessing, kismet might be next bestowed, what life might next reveal. I revel in the revealing. I revel and live for wondering what this moment and this moment and this one might proffer. It is with open hand that I receive the world that, though I am less traveled, has come to me. It is with open hand that I receive the pain, frustration, that need to adapt because of that whirling dervish DARLA, that I receive the opportunities she has afforded me. It is with palm up and fingers outward that I share portions of she and I with you. With open hand I offer these words, ideas, stories, and poems. Writing this, I thought, would explain where I am and how I got here. But I find that in doing so, I am learning in what direction I am traveling. I am not at a destination. I am in the midst of a journey. More to the point, I am realizing that DARLA continues to reveal her many faces. She is akin to the multi-faced gods and goddesses of Joseph Campbell, or the expressions that change on one's face. Upon my open hand, DARLA rests her chin and gradually reveals herself. Giving my pain, my constant adaptations in walking, and my diseases a persona helps me to understand the many facets of chronic pain and diseases and their effect upon me. With palm up, I am in prayerful, ready, and eager supplication for the discovery of what life next holds. With palm up, I am prayerful, ready, and eager to share my gifts as well. I think it's something I had known for years, but am just now more fully realizing. There is a big difference between knowing something and realizing something. And I find myself in a state of aha acceptance. The Buddha hand laid forth for giving and receiving. There is the open hand of the street urchin and beggar. The grandmotherly and fatherly hands spread outward, and the children come unto me, supplication and the solace of their safety for that moment. We can see the open palms of Christ on a cross to receive the pain and sins with one hand, and the other offering love and forgiveness for all in exchange. It is with hands open that I wait to see what gifts I might yet receive in this life, and it is with open palms I release these words to your hopefully open hands as a blessing. And those are excerpts from DARLA.